A lonesome highway leads up a mountain pass. Don't know where I'm going, but at least I'll get there fast. Oh yeah, 'cause I'm still paying my dues. I feel like I'm living like a cowboy singing the blues. Gonna find me a town, gonna settle for the night. A place with a honky-tonk and a band that's easy tight. Hey pretty lady, how about a shot of Crown? Then later menu's gonna lay the bunker down. Oh yeah, 'cause I've got nothing to lose. 'Cause it feels like I'm living like a cowboy singing the blues. Yeah, yeah. Let's ride. Madonna's coming now, gotta get moving on. No remorse, alright, bring you along. Gotta keep moving, gotta get on my way. Chasing the sun, living on the run till my last dying day. Oh yeah, 'cause I'm still paying my dues. It feels like I'm living like a cowboy singing the blues. 'Cause it feels like I'm living like a cowboy singing the blues. I feel like I'm living like a cowboy singing the blues.
That is the Rose City Rockers. Those guys are from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. That is their latest called Cowboy Blues. How fitting, because I just finished 29 days of riding with a couple of buddies across Canada. Well, not quite across Canada, from southwestern Ontario all the way across to Vancouver and beyond. Yeah, we went beyond. We went way beyond. I'm going to open up the chat room because there may be some people in there already. There's Deanbo. Hey, buddy. Deanbo says, welcome home. Yeah, it feels good to be back here. But what a great opportunity to learn about our country in a different way, which I thought was really, really cool. That was one thing that I really liked about the trip in itself. Riding across Canada on a motorcycle, just like the song Cowboy Blues by the Rose City Rockers. Those guys, check them out. They're on our website. You can find their music wherever you can stream music. And they've got a whole bunch of stuff coming out. They're doing, I think, a video for every release that they're going to do on this album. So stay tuned. A lot of creativity there. We're going to be posting those 3 videos up on our Facebook pages in coming days. So stay tuned for that one as well. So here we go. We ride across Ontario from St. Thomas, Ontario to Parry Sound on our first day. Now, the funny thing about riding in that direction is that you don't realize it's going to take you 5, almost 6 days to get out of Ontario. And we're only partway across Ontario. So imagine how wide our province is. It's like massive, and it extends forever to the west. And some of the best motorcycle roads I've ever ridden are on that route, all along the Trans-Canada Highway, which follows the coastline of Lake Superior. It doesn't get much better than that here in Canada, where you're riding along the upper crest of the lake, up on cliffs up above the lake, and then all of a sudden the landscape changes and you're going down a roller coaster and you're coming down a nice long winding hill. And what do you see at the bottom of that hill? Lake Superior. And it opens up into this beautiful, picturesque landscape when you go down there. When the Trans-Canada Highway was built, it was built with the idea of wowing anybody that would drive on it, because it covers almost every scenic landscape that's iconic in Canada. And if you've never traveled it, I challenge you to ride it, and also challenge you to ride the lower roads through the provinces. So from Lethbridge, Alberta, all the way to the coast, we rode very close to the 49th parallel in a lot of places, but we also rode up and down a lot of mountains, and it was challenging to say the least. So we've been posting photos, we've been posting stuff on Facebook about the trip, on Instagram. We got a lot more people following us as a result of what we did. The plan is to write a book, and we're still working on I'm still working on coming up with a title for it. There were a couple of titles that have been thrown around. The first is 29 Days in the Saddle, because we literally spent 29 days in the saddle of a steel horse. And the other was that maybe use that whole steel horse thing metaphorically and call it 29 Days on a Steel Horse. So I don't know. I mean, there's reference to that in Bon Jovi's Dead or Alive. Certainly all the references in terms of the passion for riding in Cowboy Blues, and how much a motorcycle resembles that of riding a horse. It's just got a lot more horsepower. Yeah, Lisa, it was a beautiful trip. If you have any questions about the trip, I'm only too glad to answer any questions I have in terms of my perception of what I saw, and just the beauty that is our country. I really, really enjoyed every changing landscape from Ontario all through the prairies. And I got to see prairie dogs going across the road in front of me. They're just wee little guys like chipmunks, only they're gray. And they're not very big, but man, can they run. And they always seem to run across from you on the road. But it's like, they're pedestrians crossing a street in Mexico. It's like they know the traffic. It's weird. But I never saw one dead prairie dog while we rode the prairies. So they must be one very intelligent creature to be able to cross the road and time traffic. But they can go like hell, man. They go across the road so fast it's like a blur until you see them on the shoulder, safely on the shoulder. It's almost like they got this hyper speed to get across the road. So yeah, the prairies were awesome. So if you have any questions, please fire them away. But I'm going to talk about the trip and a much needed sort of 29-day getaway for me, just to get away from things and strike something off my bucket list. So riding across Canada was always on my bucket list. This year it was supposed to be in the U.S., but we changed that up because of things that have been going on down there that we weren't super excited about, but we have no control over. And we just wanted to be sure that where we traveled, we would be relatively safe. But here's the thing. Safety is a relative term. Every day, a motorcyclist puts their life at risk when they go out on the highways, because I think we saw every type of disregard for motor vehicles, not just motorcycles, but other motorists for other motorists, just not yielding right of way, not following people too close, tailgating, all those things that you're taught not to do in terms of traffic. And we saw some bad stuff happen as a result of that. And, fortunately, that didn't befall us at all. And we're grateful for that. But what a great way to see Canada. And everything is like this panoramic view when you're on a motorcycle, because you see everything right to your peripherals. When you ride it in a car, the roof posts that come down on the corner of the windshield, any obstruction in your panoramic view, and somehow your brain interprets that as the frame. And so in a car, your frame is much narrower than it is on a motorcycle. On a motorcycle, you see off to the peripheries. And if you wear sunglasses that are borderless sunglasses, which we wear, there's nothing cutting your vision off to the sides. So your peripheries all come into view. So when you come down into a beautiful, lush green valley, it pops at you in a different way than it does in an automobile. It's a completely different experience. And unless you've never ridden a motorcycle, you will never understand that visual stimulation. And that was entering our eyes every single day at a pace of somewhere around 90 to 110 kilometers an hour. So our brains are processing all that information. Think about that. It really does make you think about how complex we really are as human beings when we can process that much information and stuff it into our brains, and it's there. And when you look at a photograph, it revitalizes that memory. That's why we documented it. We took pictures. I shot video from the front of the motorcycle. I don't know if anybody's seen the footage, but it is like first person. It's almost if you were driving my bike, because it's taken from the front end of my motorcycle. So we called it the Kenny Cam. Hey, Keith Hill, Desbrats. It's actually called Deborah, which is a weird thing. Okay, that's another weird naming convention. It says Desbrats, but it actually is pronounced Deborah from what I understand. Now, maybe you know, but this was a local who actually grew up there and said, no, it's not Desbrats. It's actually Deborah. I thought, there's another weird Canadian-ism, isn't it? All right. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're talking a little bit about the ride, the 29 days on the road. Lisa suggests, how about love to ride 29 days on a steel horse? All right. Wait, we might throw some of these in the basket. I mean, who knows? We come up with a winner. Now, if anybody followed Rob and I, okay, so Rob is like this straight up, but he's a funny guy. He is so funny and has such a great sense of humor. I don't know if you guys saw our videos. We had these videos that we did, these shorts on Reels, and it was on Instagram and Facebook. And we would talk about the food and the beer that we were drinking that night. Yes, that's true. You're in Colorado. Thanks for joining us, Col. Oh, that was on my bucket list to ride Colorado. Oh, yes, baby. I want to go to Red Rock Theater in Colorado. That was on my bucket list for this trip when it was supposed to be the US. Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe next year, if I do this ride and I end up in Colorado, we can find somewhere where you can show us around, or at least, show off your hometown or whatever. We went through a few people's hometowns while we were on this trip, and it was freaking awesome. We met so many great people, and we got to do so many great things. My cousin Donna in Winnipeg, and Harold's friends, Darlene and Doug in Winnipeg, man, they took us around. There you go. Keith says, all right, if you spell it out in French, the pronunciation is, all right, Debra. I don't know. That's too technical for me. That's above my pay grade. I'm going to say what the local told me. She says it's called Deborah. There we go. Anyways, I'll just follow what the local told me. Who knows, right? Yeah, so we saw a lot of smoke from the wildfires in the north. And I really feel for the people up there that have been displaced as a result of those wildfires. That has had a huge impact on people because they're being displaced into places that they don't necessarily want to go. Anyway, one of those human tragedies that you see along that journey. We saw great things. We saw some things not so good at times, right? The smoke was really, really bad, more in northern Saskatchewan. And I can talk about that later if you're interested. But there was a lot of smoke up towards Dryden. Now, our trip to Dryden got sidetracked. I don't know if anybody saw that, but this is the way that I believe that, there were, angels watching over us while we were on this ride, because we had gone to Thunder Bay. We had left Thunder Bay and we had gone to Kekabeka Falls. Never been there. If you've never been to Kekabeka Falls, you should go there. They're spectacular. It's a very interesting waterfall. The color, and we took that to be that there's a lot of iron in that water because it's a brownish color coming out of there, and it's almost like it's a lot of iron particles suspended in that water. Not exactly sure, but given what we saw up there in terms of the rock strata, probably there's a lot of iron in the water. And I'd have to research that some more. So that's part of the research we'll do as part of the book, would be researching that part about Kekabeka Falls and finding out, is the river actually on a bed of iron? I think it may be. When I looked at the color of the water coming over there, it really looks like it's got iron particles suspended in it when the sun shone on it. So that's my guess. But we're there. We leave Kekabeka Falls. We were there for a little bit. We knew that would eat into our day of riding. And then so we got on our bikes and we headed west on Highway 11, heading towards Fort Frances. Now, we weren't going to go all the way to Fort Frances, Ontario. We were actually going to hit a road called the 622 by a place called, as the local called it, Atikokan. And I called it Attican. I mean, it was weird. I couldn't pronounce it. And he said, no, it's Atikokan. I'm like, okay, Atikokan it is. So 622 was the highway we were supposed to take north there, and it would bring us out just east of Dryden, Ontario, which was our which was our next night stop after Marathon. Well, things don't exactly work out the way you hope. So here's a funny thing about this whole thing. So we get on the road, and I look up ahead towards Fort Frances. The sky is black. I mean, ominous clouds everywhere. You know we're going to get hammered with rain if we keep riding in that direction. And yet, that's the direction we got to go because that's where the road's taking us. So it starts raining. I thought, oh shit, we should have put a rain gear back on at Kakabeka, but we didn't. Thinking we might skirt around it, but we didn't. Anyway, we whip on our rain gear, get it on just in time before the heavens open on us, and it's just hammering down rain. So I go back to the other two guys and I go, just sit here on your bikes. We're on the side. We're safe. We're okay. Rob's got his 4-ways on. Let's sit here until it lets up a little bit, and then let's just hit the road and ride through it. We'll ride out the other side of it because it's a band coming through here. It's not a big weather system. So anyway, we get back on the bikes, and I got a flat tire. I mean, it was a little more descriptive than that. I actually went to sit on the bike, and the bike was lower than usual. I'm like, why is the bike low? Am I stuck here in mud or something? No, my back tire is flat as a pancake. It won't take air. We've got a portable unit with us, and I'm pumping air to it, and it is not inflating. So we got a bad tire. So we go across the road. This is going to be in the book, by the way. So you'll remember this when you read the book. So we're on the back porch of this house. It's like a hunting cabin. It's like a hunting camp there. There's a 4x4. There's a pickup truck out there. There's a couple of vehicles and whatnot. The blinds on the cabin are kind of shabby, right? And we're standing on the back porch. Nobody's there. I'm knocking to see if somebody's there. Nobody's there. So we figure it's like some kind of a hunting camp. But he's got this weird blinds, and they're kind of half broken and whatnot. And I look over at Harold, and I said, what if Hannibal Lecter lives here? Anyway, that's going to be, in the book because it's a funny moment. Anyways, we call CAA. They come, short story, Cole's Notes. They give us a tow. We end up having to go back into Thunder Bay. They fix me up with a new tire because, well, they could fix it, but if they fix the tire, guess what's going to happen, right? They're going to give me maybe three more 1,000 kilometers, and I'm riding in mountains, and I'm like, nope, just put a new tire on there. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Don't need that tire blowing when I'm going down the side of a mountain. No, thank you. I want to know that what's underneath me is pretty reliable. That's where you got to trust your machine, and you got to trust your knowledge of the machine, because boy, riding mountains really puts that relationship to a test. How much can you trust your bike? How much can you trust yourself? Do I go the posted speed everywhere, or do I take a little bit of risk and really enjoy what this curve in the road has to offer me? So it was one of those things where you had to ride pretty conservatively because you weren't familiar with the roads. But here's the weird thing. On a lot of the roads, these people are daily commuters. So you got daily commuters right up your, backside, and you're just waiting for those passing lanes. And they have them every so often where you can roll off into the passing lane, let that group of traffic behind you, and then you're fine again, right? But going with the flow of traffic down there, in my estimation, means not following recommended speed limits on curves. Now, again, how much chance are you willing to take with your life when you don't know oftentimes what's coming around the other side of that curve? And I can tell you times where transport trucks came over the curves and they were, over the yellow line. If I was riding close to the yellow line, that wouldn't have been a good place for me to be. So all those things become considerations in terms of, survival when you're out on a road like that, because you're vulnerable on a motorcycle to everything on the road. Um, yep, yep. And sometimes there's near misses, right? There's near misses because there's a lot of people out there that don't pay attention to what's going on the road, and they're riding vehicles on the road. We ran into issues with e-bike riders out there. So just not paying attention to the rules of the road and, potentially putting people at risk. You just watch this stuff unfold in front of you and you go, really? This is really happening in front of me? So there's a lot of learnings that go on with a trip like that, which I thought was really cool. And several times when I met young people at a restaurant, I would say ABL, just remember ABL. And they're like, ABL, what's that mean? Is that some old guy acronym? And I'm like, no, always be learning. Always be learning. Always be willing to learn something new, because none of us, not one of us, has all the light. Not one of us has all the light. You can always learn something. So ABL, always be learning. And this trip to me was about learning about myself, learning about relationships, learning about what matters, what doesn't matter, and and enjoying the ride. Right? What a fantastic ride to be able to ride 12,000 kilometers across a country in two different directions and covering different roads and some of the roads on the way back. So, even though we rode some of the same roads coming back, the perspective was so different. So riding east-west, I highly recommend it, because what you see going each direction is vastly different. Don't think it's the same road, because it's not. What you see going east is a whole lot different than how it unfolds and as you're heading west, which was really, really cool. Did you have? Here we go. Here's a question from Dean Bow. And by the way, Dean Bow is one of our regular watchers on the show, and I want to thank him for his loyalty and thank him for sharing everything that we do. He says, "Did you have chats through each other whilst riding? And if so, did you listen to any favorite tunes or radio stations?" So I don't listen to music when I'm riding. I'll tell you why. Music can be a distractor when you're trying to pay attention to the road. People don't realize that, but it can actually distract people, especially motorcyclists, because you're taking in so much visual data that you're processing billions of megapixels of visual stimuli, and your brain is processing that as you're riding. It's a whole different experience when you're riding motorcycle. So I have a really much different opinion than most people do about music while I'm riding. I find it can be distracting. What I do is I sing familiar songs in my head. Some of them I sang over and over again, and it just locks the lyrics in that much more. So I have songs that are in the soundtrack of my head, and we all do. We all have music inside us. It's trapped inside our heads forever. Once you've heard music, and if you love music, then you're going to have bits and pieces of songs. Some of them you'll sing from front to back in your head. But I found myself singing aloud some days to the point where, my voice was a little taxed, because I'd be singing out loud. I'd be singing a song out loud. And of course, that it's very drying when you're riding a motorcycle. You're exposed to the air the whole day. So no, we didn't have chats. Now we did not have chats too, and that's a bit challenging because everything is done by hand signal. So we got to be clear about hand signals. Um, so clarification on hand signals and what they mean, and using as few hand signals as possible to sort of denote. Now we have some of our own that we had, but I learned a new one out there that I really like, and that's just sticking your index finger up, indicating to the group behind you that you want everybody ride single file. And single file means following what the leader is doing. So if they're going to the outside of the lane, you follow them to the outside of the lane. If they're leaning towards the inside of the lane, you want to follow them. So that single file thing means also safe stopping distance, but also, the lean of the road, going with whatever the lean of the road is. Some of the roads up there are curved as you're riding through the mountains. So because they're wrapped around the mountain like this. And so some of them have a curvature to them. We don't feel them, but or we're experiencing them for the first time. But the seasoned riders like Corinne, who's ridden them before, she would be much more aware of what to expect and how and the characteristics of the road. And every road changes, right? I mean, roads out there, some of them that are heavy used and exposed to extreme weather, they become quite pitted. And so when a road is pitted, they're very much they're harder on your tires of your bike as well. So it didn't surprise me that I had to change my front tire as well when we got to the West Coast. It only had a couple of thousand K left in it, maybe 3,000 if I stretched it. But here's the thing. As a bike's treads get that thin in the center, the tire becomes less efficient at channeling water away from the center where it makes contact with the road. So you have to really play that because while you might still think you got enough skin on the tire, if you get in heavy rain, you'll find out otherwise. So I said, just replace the front tire. I'm not taking any chances. And when you're riding in mountains too, the weather can change in an instant. You can be sunny one minute and raining the next. Fortunately, we didn't experience those mass fluctuations, but we did experience one of those in Revelstoke. But we were stopped. We were not riding when that happened. So that'll be in the book. All those things that become noteworthy, I either documented them, made notes to myself. I used audio on my phone. My phone, by the way, because we were in and out of service the whole trip, my phone was not syncing properly with iCloud. Thank you, Apple, for having something that's really inconsistent. So my photos weren't all syncing, meaning that my phone wasn't functioning properly, meaning that I was running out of space really quick on my phone with all the videos and photographs that I took. I mean, I don't know. I can't count how many hours of video that I have. I filmed some 15-minute segments of road that are just, to me, stunning roads to ride. And so I filmed 15 minutes of them. Now, what I'm thinking about doing is seeing if I can get artists on our label to do some instrumental music that we could play in the background to the video. Because I mean, all you hear really otherwise is that's really what it sounds like. It's the wind, and it's my my big V twin go, So the whole thing is 15-minute videos, and we had some artists on the label that would be willing to put some instrumentals together. We could use those as background and post them up and share the royalties. I mean, there would be an opportunity there for a collaborative creative process if anybody's interested. I'm going to throw that challenge out there to any of our artists on the label that, maybe you could consider writing some instrumental music that would be featured on these videos riding these awesome segments, and literally where we can put in the video where we were riding. You've probably seen, if you haven't seen the video that I posted two of them on Facebook. One is Coleman, which is sort of the precursor to the Crow's Nest Pass. And then there's an actual footage of the Crow's Nest Pass. I think I have some other footage down in there in photographs as well. But I mean, what struck me going down there is just, the sheer magnitude of what you're riding through, and, all that. There's a lot of really, really heavy bedrock that you're riding on there in those mountains. It's not a wonder that they figured that they could, smash the Canadian Shield to put the highway through and then reuse it. So these were things that we all also witnessed as well. Engineering marvels, things that just blow your mind when you're riding by them. And the average Joe going by in a car, I don't know if they process that, because that's all, again, it's more in the peripheral vision, right? So I'll give you an example. So we're traveling east, and we are coming out of Thunder Bay. And for those of you that have ridden up there, they're in a process of completing. So that would be Thunder Bay down to Nipigon. And as we're traveling down there, you notice right away that they're using the Canadian Shield. They're literally smashing the Canadian Shield and reusing it to make the highway. And so you've got like granite and really, really, really hard rocks that they're building the bedrock out of. And they've got rock crushers where they're crushing these stones and making this crushed rock that becomes the bedrock. And it's like thick substrate. So those roads are going to be built so strong that they'll support the weight of the transport trucks, and they won't be all wavy like they are here on the 401, right? Because they're A, built on rock, and B, they've got just a solid strata underneath them to support them. So engineering marvel, that was one of the engineering marvels that we witnessed on this trip, besides several cable suspension bridges, which, always boggle the mind in terms of how they can suspend a bridge from the center on an arch piece. It's just, it boggles the mind. Yes. The mountains are majestic but deadly, Keith says. Talk about the Hope Slide and others. You're talking about the ride through Hope? Is that what you're talking about, through Hope, BC? If that's what it is, please comment on it. Yeah. I mean, there's some really, everywhere out there, you're warned of rock slides. So that's, every single freaking road, as you start down your downward trajectory, you're warned about rock slides, because you're literally riding down the side of a mountain, right? Think about it. These roads are built into the sides of mountains. Yes, mountains. Our first large plateau was 4,500 feet. That's right, 4,500 feet. That's a long ways up. That's almost a mile up. 5,280 feet to the mile. So that's a good 3/4 of a mile in the air. That's a long way to fall. So you start your descent down the mountain, and sometimes you're into a 180 that turns into another 180 because you're riding right around the mountain. It's just the weirdest thing. And then sometimes on the inside of another mountain, and then down through the pass. So, the Hope Slide. That's right, the Hope Slide. Yeah, where the mountain fell away and buried a whole community. That's always the danger of living in a mountain community, isn't it? Because those rocks are shifting. And here's the thing. Here's why they're shifting. And people don't realize this until you actually go up and you see it for yourself. Those trees are growing out of rock. That's right. We have gigantic trees that are growing out of rock. Now, here's an interesting thing. those tree roots of those trees are so strong and so powerful. I don't know what they do, but they start to pulverize that rock and into powder, and they absorb the minerals from the rock. That's what they literally do. And they are growing in vast amounts down the sides of mountains. You'll see trees all the way up the mountain. These mountains are rock, and they are massive, massive evergreens growing out of that rock. So that was one thing that we learned when we were out there. Yeah, this is a good one to mention. You know, the Hope Slide, where the mountain fell away and buried a whole community. I forgot about that one. And here we are riding through there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, as you know, sometimes ignorance is bliss. To overthink this whole ride. So we tried not to overthink the ride, not tried to overthink any part of it. Yes, hard to believe, yeah, isn't it? Yeah, we rode over the graves of many. I don't think many understand what happened years ago. Yeah, so if you don't know what happened years ago out in Hope, take a look at it, because it was a tragedy when it happened. But you know, the whole thing is that those trees are going to, literally destroy the rock. They're going to break it all down, and they're going to grow through those rocks, and they're going to split them. That's how powerful the roots are. They actually can split the rocks. And we ran into on our trip. Now, here's a cool thing. I'm not going to tell you where this was, but this is a great story to share with you. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of music, because I want to get to that tonight too. Here we are sitting. Rob and I are taste testing beers, craft beers, and we're having a beer, and we're having a appetizer with it. And we're sitting there, and next thing we're talking to a guy that's a botanist, whose job it is to go through Canada and destroy vegetation growing on or around hydro generating dams. Now there's a story behind that. So you're gonna have to buy it. You're gonna have to buy the book to find out the story behind that. But this is a real job. And it's a real job of many people that do this job that this guy does. And they travel around Canada, and their sole job and purpose is destroy vegetation on or around hydro generating dams. And like I said, there's a really great story behind that, and a photograph of the gentleman that we spoke to. So, some really, really cool stuff. His name's Christian. Christian, if you're watching this, if you haven't watched this, and if you haven't tuned into us, I'm mentioning your name here tonight on the podcast. All right, moving on to music. Well, we got a whole bunch of really great music that has come out this month, the month of July. We had a number of tunes come out just previous to that as well. So we had a whole bunch of great things. I'm going through the list here, trying to get to it all, because this changed on me. All right. So headed out towards the end of June, we had Helix releasing Time for a Change. That is off their White Lace and Black Leather album. I remastered that song. It was really, really cool after I got done with it, because it had some really, really great stereo separation that was missing in the original mix. So we were able to intensify that for the listener, and I think that people listen to it through a good headset or on a good stereo would appreciate it. We got Toxic by Green Ink. That came out July the 4th. Toxic by Green Ink. That was a tune that myself and our bassist Earl put together way, way back. He actually came up with the melody lick for it, which is primarily bass guitar, which sounds really, really cool in the song. So Toxic by Green Ink. Nobody Approved by Brent Durner and his company at My Wicked Twin. That came out on July the 4th, 2025. If you haven't listened to it, you should. It's one of his best works. It's called Nobody Approved. It is the title track off his 6th studio album, Nobody Approved. So you should check that one out. That's worth listening to. Together We Rock, a new single by GM Blacktop. We had a whole bunch of ideas around this one for some for a video. We're looking at putting together a fun video for this. Don't know when that's going to happen, but there's been a good conversation about it. So let me say it probably will happen. We've got a new song out by Helix as well this month. Came out July 11th, called Hangman's Tree. We're working on an animated video for this song right now. It's a great song that deserves some video, and it also deserves to be on the new Young Guns movie. So we're gonna try and get that track out to the people in Emilio Estevez's camp and see if we can't get them to pick a Canadian rock band to put their song on the soundtrack. Wouldn't that be cool? So something we're working on. Nova Scotia Bonfire Night by Rob Wolf. Rob is a musician out in, I believe it's Lower Sackville or in that area. It's called Nova Scotia Bonfire Night. Rob writes great folk Celtic music. If you're into folk and Celtic music, you need to listen to this stuff. It's well written, it's well penned, it's well performed, and the songs are really, really great. So check it out. I mean, you close your eyes, you could be there right at that bonfire. We got a single called Cowboy Blues. That is the latest single by our friends at the Rose City Rockers. And what can I say about that? Other than it's a great track. It is a rockin' tune. These guys have captured that rock blues feel. And if you want to get, a double header of a couple of really great rock blues bands, I think they should do some gigs with Slant Six. So Sasha Hubert, or, if you guys are watching, Jimmy, if you guys are watching tonight, check him out. Sasha Hubert, he's in Edmonton, Alberta. Band's called Slant Six. They are a rock blues band as well. I think you guys might, should maybe play a double header somewhere. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. All right, what do we got? What else we got? We got some other music that's coming up. Let's see. Yeah. So Long Distance Heartbreak is a single by Helix. That's coming out on August the 1st. This is another track off the White Lace and Black Leather album, again remastered. It's got, each track was a fun project to work on the remastering because each one of them was recorded slightly differently, which makes it just so much fun to be able to put a really cool mastering on that. Mastering finish on those tracks. So it was kind of fun to take it and be able to remaster it. So that's a cool song, Long Distance Heartbreak. And then we got a tune coming out by our friends at Angry Hill. They're from Boston, Massachusetts. That actually, I don't know. It came out backwards. It was actually released July 25th. Why am I thinking? I was looking at it going, whoa, that came out in July. So we got more music coming up. Stay tuned. We're going to be uploading more music. And you'll be able to find all that music at indietunes.com as well. So over at our website. If you haven't followed what we're doing, go to our Instagram. If you're more on Instagram than on Facebook, and you can follow us there at IndieTunes Records. The everything I post on my IndieTunes profile is cross-posted there. So if you have Facebook, You don't need the Instagram version because it's all the same. But if you want to follow us on Instagram, that's great because I'd like to get some more followers on Instagram so that we can get more organic reach for ourselves and for our artists and grow the label. That is always the goal. So great music, and it was one of the things that I guess drove me to think about, okay, motorcycle season is upon us. And I always tell this to our artists on the label. Once motorcycle season comes around, my resources become really thin because I'm thinking about riding. Now, right now, I don't want to ride. I don't want to sit on my motorcycle right now for a few days till I get the hum out of me and the rattle and the shake out of me. That's a long way to ride on two wheels. And, we had some great physical challenges too, right? I mean, an 81-year-old that rode with us across Canada. Who does that at 81 years old, right? And the other guy, I'm not going to say their names yet, but you can find that out if you watch our posts. And I'm still posting reels that I should have posted way back then. But we were so in and out of internet service that my phone wasn't syncing. My phone was filling up with photographs, and I was losing memory on my phone as Apple continued to make my my phone very geriatric in that it wouldn't. I was kept running out of memory, and I had so many videos I wanted to film. A lot of places I was resorted to actually taking more photographs than videos because my phone was full. I had 80 some odd gigs that was free on my phone when we left, and it was full by the time we got, a good chunk through the ride. And because my phone wasn't syncing with the cloud, I wasn't able to upload all my photographs to the cloud and compress my photographs on my phone to save me disk space. So it was what it was, right? But we got some great footage. We got footage right from the front of the motorcycle and some really, really, really great shots. Great shots coming down through Revelstoke and down through Mount Revelstoke, Rogers Pass, down through the Glacial Parkway. Oh, I'm telling you, we saw so many fantastic things on this ride. It just was mind blowing. It really was a trip of the century. For us, it was a trip of the century. And something we won't soon forget. We got great photographs and videos, and we're going to document it. There is a book in the works. Don't know when that's going to happen. Oh, thanks for the kudos, Keith. Yeah, some great videos. I mean, they're filmed in 1080p. I couldn't do them. I could have filmed them in 4K, but I just didn't have the memory for it. So that became problematic. But 1080p is pretty damn good. You can see the detail in the mountains. You can see etchings in the mountains. It's just, awesome video footage. And again, watching it back, I'm actually reliving that ride and enjoying it even more because, when you're going down through those mountain passes and all of a sudden it opens up into these lush green valleys, it's just like, whoa, right? And then you go down heading towards Kelowna where they had the wildfires and where they burnt the trees right off the mountains and they're just like matchsticks. It's just so sad to see that. Yeah, it was an adventure, man. We had an awesome adventure. It was a blast, a great time to reflect. Every evening was spent, in some level of reflection of the day and talking about what we appreciated most about the day. So we all shared pretty much every night. We would each share a memory of the day that stood out for us. And that's really cool because you would see that memory. Sometimes we were sharing the same memory just from a different perspective. And I love that part about riding with these guys because we always had an evening, enough time in the evening to sort of reflect the day. Although there were a couple of nights we just went to bed because it was like, holy shit, that was a full day of riding. Um, well, we didn't cover a lot of ground. And this is the other thing that people don't understand about or may not understand about our trip. It wasn't just about the roads for us, it was about stopping and smelling the roses. So if we saw something or something popped up on my GPS that said we need to stop here. Now, we did see an off the hook motorcycle museum, which probably the best motorcycle museum I've ever been in. Um, Extremely well curated and motorcycles, vintage motorcycles that are in pristine showroom condition. It was just mind-boggling to be there. And the home of the carrot cake. Yep. There's going to be a story about the carrot cake in the book as well. If you like carrot cake, even if you don't ride motorcycle, you need to go visit this place because the carrot cake is off the charts, and the coffee's pretty good too. Um, we had a great time. Great adventures. I may share some more. As we go across the next month. And I may actually play some videos, but we're planning on. I wanted to put music. Um, yeah, that was basically it. He said, "What I liked about you all was that you were it was your own ride, no pressure, no competitiveness, just drinking in the experience." Yeah, like so, some days it took us all day to get to where we were going. We could have been there a lot sooner, right? I mean, the reality is we could have been there a lot sooner, but you know, it's not always just about the destination. It's about the ride along the way. And there's so many great things. It's just like you're riding through life, right? Take time to enjoy the better things in life because they won't always be there. And sometimes you'll only pass by that way once. You may never pass that way again. And so this ride was about that. We may never pass that way again. We may never make that ride again because there are so many other great ones that we want to do. Um, you know, this ride this year was supposed to be across the northern U.S., taking in some monumental U.S. history. My wife says to me, "You're a freaking history nerd," and I'm like, "Yep, I drank in every bit of history I could from the locals and from people that grew up in those areas." I mean, it was a mind-boggling learning experience. That's all I can tell you is that the whole trip in itself now seems massive in the background, as massive as those mountains were when we would come down to them. You would come down to the base of a mountain, and it was so ominous, right in your face. It was like right this big chunk of granite that goes up 8,000 or 9,000 feet, so high that you could look up on a motorcycle at the bottom and you can't see the top, right? So that was pretty crazy. That whole surrealness of the trip, and now with it behind me, you know, all the hindsight that comes with it, and the things that I value from the trip, and what we learned, and you know, um, friendships tested. I mean, because you got to trust each other implicitly when you're doing this kind of thing. Um, and there's some jokes about that too. So maybe you'll hear some of those on the next show. Well, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you guys all for following us across Canada. Stay tuned for more videos, more reels, because like I said, I was in and out of service. So I'm still posting content that I wasn't able to post. And I've got thousands. I'm talking thousands. I think uh, about 2,900 or so photographs, stills off the front of my bike, plus others, and on top of that, hours, literally hours of video footage. I don't know, maybe 4,000 hours of video footage. So I got to go through it all. It's overwhelming right now trying to get it all together and think about the book and get back into the groove with the record label. But We will. Stay tuned for more. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the record label. Find us at indietunes.com. That's a great place to find us there. You can go to any of my social medias and find my link tree there as well, and you can follow us on those socials. And please follow our artists and subscribe to them on Spotify and iTunes and all those great streaming services that help them get their music around the world. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon.